The true hybrids of Las Vegas. Jessalyn, Luna, was detained. Killing her was not my choice. It was Alias. I'll be back, I told Delilah and Charney. I rushed off, looking around for Alias. When I didn't find him, I turned my attention over to the woods. Alias came out, naked like I was. However, he brought something with him. He dragged the corpse on the ground, and everybody stopped fighting as they turned to Alias. He dropped the corpse, and as I walked over to it, I recognized the body. It was Lucas. Alias killed him. Does anybody want to fucking join him? Alias asked. Nobody said a word. Then, this fighting stops now. Whatever he had you doing, you don't have to do any more. Daddy, Luna shouted. I turned to Charney and Delilah and nodded my head for them to release her. Luna rushed over to the corpse and dropped to her knees. She covered her face and sobbed uncontrollably. Luna. Alias said her name. You have two options. Luna removed her hands and looked up at Alias. The first option is that you can join him in the afterlife now. I wouldn't mind letting my wolf-ending the Veil family now. Oh, you can join me in my pack. And that goes for everybody that was a part of Lucas. You guys can join me and we take over this fucking city, a state. Oh, I'll end every last one of you. They didn't say anything. Luna wiped her eyes and got up from the ground. She looked around at her father's men, then turned back to us. Your father's gone, so you can make your own decision, Luna, I told her. Luna sobbed. Make your choice now, Alias told her. The men and women from Lucas' pack kneeled, except for Luna. And what happens when we do? Then, your family, my family. Things will be different from now on. Mason, Tank, Lincoln, Adonis, and Aiden walked over to us. Tank handed me some clothes first, and I quickly threw them on. I glanced over at Alias, who was getting dressed as well. What do you say? I asked her. She turned to me and nodded her head. Tomorrow, we're going to start something you know more of that leader and pack shit. From now on, we live as equals will be alphas of this pack. Nothing less and nothing more. Can you handle that? Everybody nodded. Come tomorrow. I told everyone. We'll plan something for everyone. Everybody left in a flash. Alias and I looked around the street and sighed. Naomi and Kane walked over, covered in blood. How do you feel? Kane asked his son. Fine. Alias told him. Thanks for being there for me. Your family. Adonis told him. We have to clean up. Mason sighed. We can't have the cops coming and seeing this. He was right. It would have caused a lot of problems if there were bodies still out in the street. Good thing we rarely had people coming that way. Alias and I had the biggest house on the street, but there were houses that were completely abandoned. A thought came to mind, but I needed to run it by Alias once we finished cleaning up the street. Thanks for letting us spend time over here, Sasha said as she grabbed her things and her children. It was also great to get to know you. Of course, Sasha, I told her. You guys can come over anytime. Thanks so much. I hugged her, and I said goodbye to her two children. Lincoln and Alias said their goodbyes, as well Mason, and Lincoln left with Sasha and the kids. Tank, Liam, Nina, and the others stayed. They didn't really have a place to stay at the moment. A hybrid, huh? Liam asked us. Yep, Alias said. Now that this shit with Lucas is finished, what are you going to do? Delilah sighed and shrugged her shoulder. We're heading back to her grandma's house. She told us, well, you guys can get a house out here. I suggested. Alias turned to me, and I pointed to the empty houses on the street. There are a lot of houses here, Alias. I told him. Yeah, but that's up to them to decide. He told me. I mean, we can. However, all of our things are back at our grandma's house. Liam told us. We would have to go back to get it. We'll figure that out later, all right. You guys can stay here tonight. I have 3 extra bedrooms. When Alias said something about the bedroom, it made Liam cringe. I knew what it was, and I decided to change the idea. There's actually a hotel that we know if you guys feel more comfortable there. I told them. That'll be great. Liam said, can you give us the address and we'll leave? You're leaving? Nina asked. Yeah. Liam told her without looking her way. I'll give her a call and let her know that you're coming. I smiled. Thanks. Liam got up from the couch with the rest of his family. Liam. Alias called his name. Liam stopped and turned to him. Come back tomorrow. I told him. We'll deal with your living situation. Sure. Liam nodded. They stepped out, leaving just Nina and Tank. Nina smacked her lips and got up from the chair. Can we stay here? She asked. Deacon is already asleep. You don't have to ask. Alias told her. However, Tank, I need to talk to you about something. Tank looked at me and nodded his head. I grabbed Nina's hand, and we walked up the stairs. We needed to give them some space. Besides, I needed to talk to Nina. The whole thing with Liam. What was up with that? I mean, did she still have feelings for him? Imria, she does, but she's with Tank because of Sage. She read my mind. Of course she would. Nina, and I walked into the room, and I turned the light on before shutting the door. Deacon laid on the bed, resting peacefully. Nina sat beside him, rubbing his little back. I came over and sat next to her. Nina. I said her name. Nina turned to me. Yes. Why are you with Tank? She squinted her eyes at me and shook her head. Are you seriously asking me that? Nina. No, Jessalyn. I'm with Tank because I love him. Imria, she's lying. It's because of Sage. And because I'm pregnant by him. But you have a baby with Liam. So, if you didn't have a baby with Tank, or if you didn't have Sage, would you have stayed with Liam? No. Imria, she's lying again. Let me talk to Sage. Sighing, I decided to step back and let Imria talk to her. Imria, Sage. Sage, no, Imria. Back off. Imria, you need to let Xander go. Sage, fuck you. I'm not doing that. He's mine. Wow. Just listening to Sage and Imria, I had realized something about Nina. She didn't have a choice with who she was in a relationship with. And I wonder if Tank felt the same way about her. Sighing, I was hoping Alias had some luck with Tank. Busy days. Jessalyn. Alias had been busy the following days. He helped Liam, Nina, and Liam's family get their own place. He even got a place for Tank. Tank ended up doing what Alias told him to do. However, him being with Charney wasn't going to happen at all. So, I had a better idea. So, instead of forcing a relationship between Charney and Tank, we hooked Tank up with Crystal. And they hit it off just fine. Rose was allowed to stay over as well. Everybody seemed to be fine with hooking up and creating a family. Nina was doing fine with Tank being with Crystal, and that was good as well. She was happy to be back with Liam. She knew that she was going to have to deal with Tank again once their baby was born. Everybody was hooking up with everyone, settling down and doing what wolves did. Except Mason and Luna. We saw Mason every day, but Luna, she came around whenever she wanted to. I thought it was weird, but I could understand. Being around the guy who killed her father was too hard right now. I thought it would be good to spend time with her and let her know that we were still there for her. So I decided to head over to the one place where I knew I could find her. I left the house after dinner and headed over to Fallen's cemetery and funeral home, which was close to Lucas' old territory. I got close and saw Luna walking inside, heading towards her father's grave. I pulled into the parking lot and parked the car before I got out. Locking the car door, I headed towards the entrance and walked inside. I stepped into the room and saw Luna leaning over her father's closed casket. "I miss you so much," she whispered as I got close. I placed my hand on her shoulder, and she jumped, pulling away from me. "It's you," she sighed. "What are you doing here?" "We haven't seen you in a minute, so I came to check on you." "I'm fine, you can leave." She turned back to the casket, not saying another word to me. "Luna, I know you're hurting." "Do you?" "I'm sorry. I don't see your loved one here." "It's funny you think that I would see them here, huh?" "Well, I didn't really have a biological family like you did." Luna just looked at me. I had adopted parents regardless of them being there for me. I still couldn't get over the fact that my family didn't want me at all from what I heard. My parents were young. Mother was 16 and my dad was 19. "I'm sorry. Don't be silly. Your father was probably a good man to you. However, him trying to get rid of us, it was a problem." Luna nodded her head. "I know. You know." "Yeah, we got into an argument about it during the day. However, he didn't listen to me. He just gathered everybody and came at you guys." "Why didn't you stay back?" "Why would I? He was my father, and he knew I'd do anything just to make him happy. He was everything." "I see." We heard the door open and Luna, and I turned around. Mason walked in with his hands in his pocket. He looked from Luna, then to me. Hey, Jess," he said. "Can I have some time with her for a minute?" Sure," I said, then turned to Luna. "Are you going to be okay?" Luna looked over at me and nodded. I patted her on the shoulder before I walked off. "Bye, Mason," I told him as I walked out of the room and out of the building. Just before I got to the car, I stopped and turned back to the building. "Imria, want me to listen?" I smiled and nodded. Of course, I was curious as to what Mason wanted to say to her. I mean, they didn't know each other, right? "How are you?" Mason asked Luna. "I'm fine." Luna told him. "How are you?" "I'm good. I wanted us to get to talk, since we haven't spoken in a long time. I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry about your father." "Mason, I'm sorry." It got quiet for a minute, and of course, I thought they were done talking. "For what?" Mason asked. "For my father's behavior when you and I started dating." My eyes widened when she said that. Mason and Luna used to be a thing. They were together. I asked Imria. Imria, yeah, they were. Lucas forbid the relationship, though. Huh. Of course he would. Luna, I don't care about that anymore. Mason told her. I just hope we could start it all over again. You want us to be together again. What about Sasha and your kids? I don't care about Sasha anymore. I had to let her go a long time ago when my brother imprinted on her. Her kids. My brother takes care of them. They are not my responsibility. My brother is their father for all we know. Luna got quiet that time. Do you think you could try again with me? After everything I've put you through, why would you want to be with me? Because we had fun, and you can't sit there and act like we didn't how we were always going on dates. Runs together. Luna chuckled. And the times where we would hook up. Tell me you don't miss that. I do. I missed everything about you, Mason. Then, let's start everything over, baby. I'm single and you're single. What's wrong with that? Luna sighed. Okay, she told him. We can start everything over. I smiled before I headed back to my car. It was great to see those two back together. Now Mason could stop mopping around, like there was nobody he could settle down with. Everything was going smooth. My hand went to my mouth quickly, and I ran to the nearest bush, throwing up everything I ate that day. I wiped the side of my mouth with the back of my hand. My stomach was not feeling good at all that night. It just hit me out of the blue. Sighing, I needed to get back home. I got to the car, then got in. Once I started the car up, I pulled out of the parking lot and sped down the street. I ran into the house and down the hallway to the bathroom. Damn it, not again. I rushed inside and dropped in front of the toilet, throwing up again, coughing and gagging before more bile escaped from the back of my throat. Jess. Alias said my name. I spit into the toilet and turned to him. Are you okay, baby? I reached my hand up and pushed the handle down, flushing the toilet. Then, I leaned back against the wall, catching my breath. Yes. I finally answered him. I'm just not feeling well. You want to go to the doctor? No, not that sick to even go. I'm just nauseous. Okay, well, I was thinking maybe we could go down to one of the chapels and marry there. I shook my head. I don't want that. I told him. I want something to remember. And what would that be? What do you want to do? First, I need to feel better. Can we talk about this another time? Alias leaned against the wall, staring at me. I rolled my eyes and looked down at the ground. What? I can't stare at you. Oh no. Alias chuckled. I glanced up at him, and he turned to walk off. Give me a couple of hours, okay? I told him. Sure, babe. Night out on the Las Vegas Strip. Alias. I waited for Jessalyn, as she'd gotten freshened up for the night. I've been so busy dealing with the pack that I made no time for her and remember that I had a fiancé I had to attend to as well. My pack was my everything, but Jessalyn was my priority. Hey, Jess. I shouted as soon as I got to the bottom of the steps. Are you ready? The bedroom door opened. My eyes widened when I saw Jessalyn at the top of the stairs. She wore this beige dress that hugged her curvy figure with slits that revealed both her legs and thighs. A chain was wrapped around her thigh, cuddling it perfectly. Wow, I said as she came down the stairs. She smiled at me, and when she got close, her perfume brushed past my nose, gently. Are you just going to stare at me, or are we going to leave? I extended my hand out to her, and she grabbed it. We walked towards the front door, and I opened it, holding it open for her. She walked out the house first, and I was right behind her. Tonight, I was definitely going to marry her without any disruptions. I unlocked the car door, and we both got in, shutting our doors. You ready? I asked her. She took a deep breath and released it, slowly before nodding her head. Yes, I'm ready, she told me. I just continued to stare at her. She kept closing her eyes and taking deep breaths. Did you eat? I asked. She shook her head. I ate earlier, but I threw all of it up at the funeral home. You were at the funeral home. For what? I raised my eyebrow at her. She sighed and looked down. I went to check on Luna. We haven't seen her for a minute, since the war between her father and us she didn't need me. Anyways, why you think that? Mason and her wanted to be alone. Mason. He was there. Well, yeah. Was Mason ever a part of Lucas' crew? I nodded my head and her eyes widened. Really? She asked me. Yeah, I met Mason when I was with Lincoln. They had an altercation. They were like me and Aiden at first. I see so. They were able to get over it, huh? She looked at me with wide eyes, and I just started the car up. Then I pulled out the driveway and drove towards the strip. When are you and Aiden going to get along? She asked me. Whenever I'm ready to. I told her. Alias. Don't do that. Baby. I glanced at her before turning my eyes to the road. Ugh, whatever. It's like talking to a brick wall. Anyways, you want to go that route. Alias. I'm just saying you and your brother need to get a better relationship. I see him trying to reach out to you, and yet you slap his hand away. Why? Over a grudge you had since you were kids. You know what? I'm trying to have a good time. Keep testing me, Jessalyn, and I'll turn this fucking car around. You were going to make up an excuse, anyways. I stopped the car in the middle of the street, and the cars behind us started honking like crazy. Are you serious, Alias? She asked me. Keep playing. I told her. She smiled at me and burst into a fit of laughter. I shook my head and continued driving. The rest of the way there was nothing but jokes and a lot of flirting. I'm not going to lie, but I loved it. It excited me to be able to do this with the woman I was about to get married to. Hell, I never thought I was ever going to marry. Once we got to the strip, I parked the car in a valet parking lot, and we both got out. I tossed the key to one of the men before I threw my arm around Jessalyn's shoulder, and we walked off. The Las Vegas Strip was beautiful at night. The neon lights and the nightlife of many people walking around with their peers while enjoying a good drink was the atmosphere I loved. Jessalyn and I slowly took our time as we headed to the chapel. Baby, I said to her. Yeah. She answered. Remember when we first met? Jessalyn nodded with a light chuckle. Of course I do. You hated me because I called you gay. I couldn't even believe you thought that shit. Well, you weren't talking to me that much. Didn't mean I was gay, babe. We didn't know each other. I never got to apologize for that you were mad as hell. Don't worry. I leaned closer to her, placing my mouth close to her ear. You let me get you back, anyways. I kissed her and she turned to me. We stopped in front of the chapel, and we kissed passionately. You ready? I asked her. She turned her head and glanced at the chapel. Her heart was pounding fast, so of course, I knew she was nervous. Alias, are you sure about this? I nodded. Baby, it's clear we need to really make this official. I mean, we both weren't going anywhere besides. We've been through too much. I'm ready to do this, are you? I released her and she smiled at me. Baby, I'm so nervous. I am too. Trust me, I want to turn the fuck around and just go somewhere else, however. I'm not. I want us to do this together. She caressed the side of my face and nodded. If you're ready to do this, then we can do it, Alias, but I need to know something. Of course. Are you really done with dealing with these women? No more of those contracts. No more meeting women behind my back. I squinted my eyes at Jessalyn. Are you talking about Charney? Jessalyn didn't say anything. Baby, I just met with Charney because we needed her help. If it wasn't for her coming with her pack, we would have been outnumbered. You shouldn't be jealous of her. You didn't do anything with her. Jess, please. She's the mother of Tank's child. Why would I? Jessalyn nodded her head and looked down. I would never cheat on you, okay? Okay. I grabbed her hand and took her through the Las Vegas chapel. I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. I pulled Jessalyn close to me, and the two of us sealed the deal with a long, passionate kiss. Then we walked down the aisle hand in hand. As soon as we stepped outside, Jessalyn pulled away from me and leaned against the chapel with her hand covering her mouth. Again. I asked her. She swallowed and nodded her head. There's a store close by. Do you want to go in there for some Sprite or something? Yeah. I'm sorry. No, it's not your fault. I just wonder why you are so sick all of a sudden. I don't know, but after we go to the store, is it okay if we go back home? I'm not really feeling good. Of course. Jessalyn pushed off the wall, and we headed over to the store. We walked inside and ended up separating. I went to the soda aisle and grabbed some Sprite for her. When I walked back over to her, I stopped. She was staring at a bunch of pregnancy tests. You okay? I asked her. She nodded. Do you need one? She looked at me and sighed. Can we get one just to be sure? Yeah. She grabbed a test from the shelf, and we walked over to the cashier. I paid for the Sprite and test, then we left the store. We walked back over to the car, and the same shit happened again. Jess. I said her name. She inhaled deeply, then breathed from her nose, slowly. After she finished, she looked over at me. Babe, what's going on? If I think it's what it is, then that's the reason why I'm feeling like this. Okay. I unlocked the car door, and we both got in at the same time. Then I started the car and pulled out of the valet parking, destined to go home. 2 hours later, I stood against the wall while Jessalyn sat on the toilet to pee on the stick. Once she finished, she placed the test on the counter before she wiped herself and got up from the toilet seat. She flushed the toilet and got up, pulling her panties back up and her dress down. We both glanced over at the stick, and I couldn't help but to be nervous. I mean, the last time she was pregnant, we ended up losing it. We stood in silence for a good few minutes. Then Jessalyn went to go check the test. There's 2 lines. She told me. What does that mean? I asked her. She raised her eyebrow at me and smiled. I'm pregnant. She walked over to me and kissed me. I'm pregnant, baby. I couldn't help but to smile. I knew that's what she wanted, and hell, I wanted it as well. Many questions ran through my mind, and of course one of them was, would I be a good father? Jessalyn chuckled and nodded her head at me. You'll do fine. She told me. You'll be amazing. I nodded, and we kissed for the remainder of the night. She finally pulled away from me and placed her hand on her chest. Now, I need you to go do something for me. She told me. And what's that? She sighed and folded her arms over her chest. I need you to make up with your brother for the sake of your child. I knew she was going to go there. Right now, I didn't see Aiden and me making up ever. Now, would I try to be civil for my child and Jessalyn's sake? Of course. When will it happen? Not anytime soon. I just wanted to enjoy myself and my new family. There was someone I did need to make up with, and that was the person who rode with me the most and who sided with me through everything. Adonis. I'll be right back, okay? I told Jessalyn. Okay. Jessalyn told me. I pecked her on the cheek, then turned and walked out the bathroom. I walked towards the front door and exited the house. Then I went across the street to Adonis. I stood there for a few seconds, contemplating on what I was going to say, until the front door opened up. Alias. Adonis said my name. What are you doing here? I placed my hands in my pockets and sighed. I came to talk to you, I told him. Adonis closed his front door, then turned his attention back to me. We stood there, not saying anything. What did you want to talk about? Look, Adonis, I came here to apologize. Our relationship had dropped and I came to see if we could fix it. You've been a real ass lately, Alias. You never were like that until you got your wolf. What the hell did you expect? That I was going to be the same guy? I was hoping you were the same cousin I enjoyed spending my time with. And I'm still the same guy you could hang with. Really. I got a different feeling it's like you forgot who your family was. Everybody else. Yeah, but you. No. Adonis sighed and looked to the side. I will never forget you, Adonis. You're like my closest brother, and you know that. Adonis glanced back at me and shrugged. We'll see. He turned and walked back in his house. Then he glanced at me. You coming in? He asked. No, I can't. I told him. I'm dealing with a pregnant wife now. Adonis smiled and nodded his head. So, you guys finally tied the knot, huh? Finally. That's good, and she's pregnant again. She is. Adonis leaned against the doorframe. Make sure you protect that one, okay? I walked backwards and nodded to his response. You know I will. Are you going to tell your parents and Aiden? My parents are able to detect things like that, so I'm not going to tell them Aiden. He'll just find out on his own. You know it would be cool to tell him that he has a niece or nephew coming soon. I bet it would be. Good night, Alias. Are you coming by tomorrow? We can start the hanging process all over again. Adonis chuckled. Of course I am. What time? Not in the morning, that's for sure. Okay. I'll see you tomorrow around noon. Cool. Good night, Adonis. Adonis closed his front door, and I turned and headed home. It was great talking to him again. I missed the hell out of him. As I made my way back to my house, I realized something. It was time for me to really get my act together because now my life had just begun. Not only as a husband or future father, but as a pack leader as well. The end.